In this video, you will learn about the different factors that can influence the budget constraint line. In a previous video, you have learned what budget constraints are and how they influence consumers' choices. Now, let's look at an example where the consumer's budget constraint changed from $10 in the original example to $5. In this example, the consumer has a new budget, $5 instead of $10, while the price of apple and bread remains the same. In this case, the budget constraint line shifts inwards because now the consumer can only afford a fewer number of goods compared to the previous example. All the combinations of goods that were previously available for the consumer are no longer affordable because these combinations are now located outside of the budget constraint line. Since the new budget constraint is $5, the combination of goods purchased cannot cost more than this amount. For example, the consumer can choose to buy 5 units of apples and no bread, which would cost exactly $5. The consumer can also decide to buy no apples and 10 units of bread, which once again costs $5. They can also purchase 3 units of apples and 4 units of bread, which will once again cost $5. Moreover, they can purchase different combinations of goods that lie within the budget constraint line. For example, they can decide to buy 2 units of apples and 3 units of bread, which will cost them $3.5, leaving $1.5 for the consumer to spend on other goods. Notice that the slope of the budget line didn't change. It is the same as it was previously. Why is that? Because the price of the two products didn't change. The only thing that changed was the budget constraint itself. Now, let's look at an example where the price of one of the goods changes, but the budget constraint and the price of the other good remain unchanged. In this example, we have the original budget constraint of $10, the original apple price of $1, and the new bread price of $1 instead of 50 cents in the original example. This changes our budget constraint inequality to 10 larger than or equal to 1 QA plus 1 QB. Since the price of one product increased, that means our consumer will be able to purchase fewer goods than before, meaning that some of the combinations of goods that were previously available for the consumer are no longer affordable. However, there is one combination of products that is still affordable for the customer: 10 units of apple and 0 units of bread. This is because compared to the original example, only the price of bread changed. The price of apples and the budget did not. Therefore, the consumer can still afford the same quantity of apples on the same budget if they don't purchase any bread. This also explains why the slope of the budget line has changed compared to the original example. Another combination of goods available for the customer is 0 units of apple and 10 units of bread. In the original example, the consumer could afford 20 units of bread when they didn't purchase any apples. This makes sense because the price of bread was half of the current price, meaning that consumers could afford twice as many units of bread. Alternatively, the consumer can also choose to purchase 4 units of apple and 6 units of bread, which will cost them exactly $10. In the original example, a $10 budget would have included 4 units of apples and 12 units of bread. But because of the price increase, they can now only afford half the quantity of bread. Let's look at a similar example where the budget is unchanged, but the price of an apple is now $2 instead of $1, and the price of bread is still 50 cents. Our new budget constraint inequality is 10 equals or larger than 2 QA plus 0.5 QB. This means that most of the previous purchase options are not available for our consumer anymore, except for one: 0 units of apple and 20 units of bread. This is because both the price of bread and the budget are unchanged. Therefore, the consumer can still afford the same quantity of bread on the same budget if they don't purchase any apples. This also explains why the slope of the budget line has changed compared to the original example. Another combination of goods available for the customer is 5 units of apple and 0 units of bread. In the original example, the consumer could afford 10 units of apple when they didn't purchase any bread. This makes sense because the price of apple was half of the current price, meaning that consumers could afford twice as many units of apple. Alternatively, the consumer can also choose to purchase 3 units of apple and 8 units of bread, which will cost them exactly $10. In the original example, a $10 budget would have included 6 units of apples and 8 units of bread, but because of the price increase, they can now only afford half the quantity of apples. I hope you found this video useful, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more videos.